how much does it really cost to sell a house? Maybe you've been checking out on YouTube and Google, how much does it cost to sell my house? I'm thinking I need to sell my house. I don't know if I want to put up with this house with the new interest rates that I'm going to get. Or maybe you're trying to figure out if you should upgrade and move, but you're like, the interest rate that I'm paying is so much more attractive than it is to buy the next house. But the thing is, that interest rate won't last forever. And does this home make sense for you? I'm going to talk about how much it actually costs to sell your house. And I want you to think back and remember, if you've been in this house 5, 10 years, you may have pulled equity out of your home. What does that mean? Maybe you wanted to do some kitchen renovations. Maybe I don't know what you did with that money, but maybe you got a home equity line of credit, or otherwise known as HELOC. That line of credit is actually attached to your home, and it also becomes something that has to get paid out when you sell your house. So when we are sitting down and doing your net numbers with you, you have to also throw that in. You cannot just say, here's my mortgage amount, and we calculate everything based on that. Because if you have a home equity line of credit attached to it, that's going to cost you because you have to pay it. You cannot keep that. You have to have it all paid out because it's attached to your home. That equity in your home is attached. We are looking at your equity in terms of how much you've made on your house value. If you bought for $350 and it's now worth $450, you have $100,000 of equity. However, if you took 50 grand out as a home equity line of credit and you haven't paid it off, it's still outstanding, your own equity is actually only 50,000, not the 100,000. So that's something you want to make sure you take into account. Other things you want to take into account aren't necessarily hard costs like the bank, but there's also costs like cleaning your home. Maybe you need to hire a cleaner to help you actually clean and organize your house. Maybe you've been in that house for so long and it's overwhelming to think, oh, it's going to cost me my sanity to be able to get this house ready for sale, not just the money. So maybe take a look at getting an organizer or a professional cleaner to help you, especially with kids around the house and you're working all the time. How on earth are you going to get everything done at once? So that cost needs to be accounted for. I also would recommend that a fresh paint job is going to get done to your house, and so that's going to cost you some money. But if you talk to someone like me, I have a lot of connections with painters and trades and cleaners that are going to be not just the best deal for you, but also people that show up, because sometimes that happens where you've hired somebody and nobody comes. So it's important that you are considering all these things into your home. And a realtor like myself has a stager on my team to let you know and advise you of what color to paint your home, because sometimes people will be gung-ho and change the carpets, flooring, and paint before I get in there, and then I'm going, oh, seafoam green still isn't a good color. So you want to wait to have that consultation so you know that you're painting and preparing the home for sale for the masses, no longer for your own personal taste, because you're looking to leave the house. Another cost of selling your home is the moving, right? So you want to look into the cost of a mover and packing boxes. All that kind of stuff is really important. Now, moving back to some of the hard costs, you need to check with your mortgage to see if there's a payout penalty. Maybe you're near the end, then the payout penalty may be less. Maybe you're looking to port your mortgage. What is the cost of that? You think, oh, I get to keep my low rate and I'll just port it because then I just blend the two rates of the new and the old. But sometimes when the numbers are run, it actually ends up being more money than just getting a brand new mortgage with the new interest rate versus combining the two. So you definitely want to have an experienced mortgage broker on your side that is able to help you run those numbers so you know truly what your costs are. Now, other costs, of course, is going to be realtor costs. We cost money, we have to make a living, and we are going to give you advice and different values, and different services are offered by different agents depending on what they're offering. So we offer a home stager, a pre-listing inspection, social media marketing, and a lot of distribution and agent-to-agent communication and updating them on what's going on. We update our clients all the time. We use technology to communicate with our clients. It's important to understand not the cost of a realtor, but the investment you're making in the realtor. And the buyer's agent is getting compensated through the seller at this time. So the fee is being paid by the seller for both the selling agent and the buying agent. Now, other costs to sell your home are going to also be legal fees. Here in Alberta, you do need to use a lawyer. You cannot use a notary like you can in BC, for example. So you want to think about that. That's anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. You're usually on the lower side when you are selling a home versus buying a home for lawyer fees. Another cost is the real property report. When you own a single family home, you need to have this copy. Now, you may have gotten one when you purchased the home. They don't go out of date. The only reason they go out of date is because maybe you added a deck or a fence or something exterior. Then the one with no deck is no longer going to be valid. You're going to want to get a new one done. Those typically cost about $600. And if there's no permits that were done on your deck, now you're going to have to get the permit. And the city of Edmonton charges double the normal cost of a permit when everything's already finished and completed. Once that permit is there, then you can get compliance, which is part of the real property report and part of your responsibilities as a seller to provide. Now, this takes not just money, but also time. If you're looking, sometimes you see, well, what about title insurance, Melody? It seems cheaper and more people seem to be using it. Now, title insurance is an easier way because you're no longer getting a surveyor company to come out and do all the work. But guess what? For the buyer, they're a little bit more hesitant because now they don't know the risk they're taking when they're getting a property with title insurance being forced to be accepted for them. Title insurance, fun fact for you, can only be pulled by the buyer's lawyer side. So as a seller, you're just reimbursing them the cost. They can't transfer title insurance to the next buyer. But an RPR that's physical, it can be transferred every time they sell. So there's more value to your home when the RPR is actually completed and compliant, gives more peace of mind. When you see the market shift and it's more of a seller's market and there's not very much inventory and the demand is high, buyers are willing to compromise and take that. However, when the inventory is lower and demand is lower, buyers usually tend to be a bit more picky and they're going to ask likely for an RPR. If they're going to take a title insurance, they may ask for more money off your property, and that's going to be a cost that maybe you didn't consider and something well worth taking into consideration. Realtors can charge technically whatever they want to charge. Here in Alberta, in Edmonton specifically, usually what you're going to see is 7% on the first 100,000 and 3% on the remaining balance plus GST. Now, I say that this is what you usually see. Sometimes you see a bit more, sometimes you see a bit less. Sometimes you see a significant less, and sometimes sellers might go and use what's called for sale by owner, but they're still usually paying for a buyer's side. And of that 7 and 3, it's usually split in half. 3.5, 1.5 goes to the buyer's agent, 3.5, 1.5 goes to the seller's agent. When they're doing for sale by owner, there's still that 3.5, 1.5 is still being requested because usually buyers are working with an agent. And so then the agent needs to get paid for the value and the services that they're providing to help coordinate that sale. Is there a cost savings in terms of just selling it on your own and just paying the buyer's side? I would say there's costs maybe that you don't agree with, but an agent who does this full time and this is their livelihood, they've been doing this for a living, is likely going to know how to sell your house for the most amount of money in the quickest time possible than someone who has a full-time job who is selling their home on the side and wanting to make sure that they're trying to save money. Sometimes you're going to see a huge value in that. If you take a look at what is my time worth, if I could focus on my family, I could focus on my work and let the professionals do their job, then it allows you to actually not just gain more money, but also gain more sanity. And we are trying to take the stress off of you so that you're actually able to come out ahead, and it should be a win-win so that you're happy with the services that have been provided to you for what you've paid for. There's always that saying, you get what you pay for.